We'll begin with security, with special focus on President Bola Tinubu's regional and internal strategies, especially in the light of his intervention to quell the attempted coup in Nigeria's next-door neighboring country, Benin Republic. Speaking at an ECOWAS ministerial briefing in Abuja on Thursday, Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuga, said the country's internal security challenges cannot be separated from the wider regional crisis, warning that instability in neighboring states directly fuels insecurity in Nigeria. And tensions rising in the Sahel region and across the Lake Chad Basin, driven by conflicts and terrorism, the situation seems to have worsened with the collapse of Libya and regime change in Niger Republic. Can Nigeria afford to sit by and watch another democracy destabilized in Benin Republic? This, alongside changes at the Ministry of Defense and the withdrawal of police personnel from VIP protection, form the focus of today's program. Well, to help us shed more light on them, we have joining me from Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, a security analyst, David Otto. Later, he'll be joined in the studio by another security expert, Jonathan Onoja. Welcome to the program, Mr. Otto. Glad to have you.
Thank you for having me.
Great. I mean, let me begin by asking you your reaction to the intervention by ECOWAS, particularly Nigeria, to quell that regime change in Benin Republic. How significant was it?
Well, it's very significant. You've got to understand that ECOWAS has a protocol for the prevention, management, and resolution of conflict, and part of that, which is Article 21, I think there's also Article 17 of the 1999 ECOWAS protocol, talks about the fact that ECOWAS can deploy a standby force in the event that, there is any conflict for the prevention, management, and resolution of any conflict. But also, I think, what is quite unique about the situation in Benin is Nigeria intervening, one on the basis of a bilateral engagement with the Beninois President Quell, to his counterpart for an intervention. In this case, the Nigerian president deployed the Air Force to cover the skies, and that, according to the Beninois president, helped in actually, leading to the failure of that coup d'etat. For internal, purposes, that helps Nigeria to demonstrate itself, within the region, especially neighboring countries, that it is a reliable partner when it comes to preventing the take over of power. Regionally, it also boosts ECOWAS because, remember that, ECOWAS had, been facing a similar issue when it came to the case of Niger, Burkina Faso, and Mali, but specifically Niger, when it attempted to deploy security forces at a time when most of us considered it as too late. So the question now is, this timely intervention, has led to some progress. It has allowed the Beninese, the Beninois president to be able to stay in power. It has demonstrated that time in terms of intervention is very key. And for me, one thing that remains unanswered is the fact that we did not see a similar intervention in the case of Guinea-Bissau, which is also a member of ECOWAS. Remembering that the former president, Goodluck Jonathan, who was present on ground, made a declaration on television saying that he believed that the coup was organized by the incumbent. And he described it as not a coup at all. But it is a coup, and we want to see not just Nigeria, but also ECOWAS doing something to these kind of countries as well.
David Otto, I think you took my next question right out of my mouth, because I was going to ask you, the region has seen political uncertainty. About 10 coups in my last count in the last 5 years, failed or not. 10 coups in 5 years. And then the question that you raised is, why haven't we seen this sort of swift intervention from ECOWAS in the past? If you could hazard a guess, I mean, you did say it remains unanswered, but if you could hazard a guess,
yes,
why is that so?
I think that's the question in the lips of many Africans who are saying very clearly that there seem to be some kind of, some describe it as double standard in terms of the way that ECOWAS has reacted. But perhaps, they have learned lessons. I was, of the opinion that timing is very crucial when it comes to military coup d'etats. I was, quite disturbed, when Nigeria had threatened to intervene in Niger, because I believed that at the time the coup had been simply consolidated. So timing is very key if a country or a regional body should intervene in a military coup d'état. And this is one of the reasons why the intervention that was planned by ECOWAS was called off in the last minute, because it was almost too late. But I think what is quite important, Adesiwa, is not just about intervening in military coups, but it's also about preventing, sitting presidents, from changing the constitution to stay longer in power or for many more of additional terms. Is to prevent, leaders from stealing the elections, and trying to violate the rights of people to vote for change. It's to prevent the unconstitutional change of power by simply saying that, or by simply preventing oppositions, from being registered as candidates in elections. So there are many other areas where ECOWAS needs to work on, and I believe that it should be a standard operating procedure, not just a selective intervention, which risk portraying ECOWAS as being biased in the way that it intervenes.
Thank you, David Otto. Stay with us. Let me bring in Jonathan Onoja, another security expert who joins me in the studio. Thank you for joining us, Mr. Onoja.
Thank you. It's my pleasure.
And I just wanted to ask you, some of the reactions we have seen to Nigeria's intervention in Benin during the course of the week is the accusation from critics who say this is a double standard, and two, that the Nigerian military has once again shown the world that they are capable and they have the capacity to respond. So why haven't we seen that sort of response when it comes to insurgency in the country? Is that a fair comparison from the critics?
Of course, that is a fair comparison, because you see, our military over the years have demonstrated these capacities. They have been sent to various missions, peace missions, and they have delivered expectedly. They have restored peace to different nations. So I think the critics, kudos to them, because from the security standpoint, you begin to wonder, is it the same Nigerian military that over the years called the giant of Africa, that have, combat intelligence, land combatants and all of that? They have it. The intelligence they know how to handle issues. So I think the problem is systemic and political corruption, systemic corruption, and politicization of our security forces that have, presented our military, our security agencies in the light that we see now. And again, of course, when people are expected to deliver on a particular mission, they always want to, deliver expectedly to show that, yes, they have the capacity. But when they come back home, the home fronts, it's just like the Nigerian Super Eagles. There are different players playing at the various, various clubs, doing wonders. But only for when they come to the national team, they only want to survive with it through the back windows, and that's to show that there's no commitment. And again, when you look at it again, the welfare of these players as well now regarding to our military, the welfare of these personnel are not taken care of. So we must look at, a different form of approach when it comes to Nigerian security. Because from what is happening now, ECOWAS system has also shown that, look, we are one of the problems. We are part of the problems. Why is it that oftentimes this coup happens, there will be no sit back to say, come, what are the fundamental, what are the root causes? What are the challenges? Why are we having these coup d'etats I mean, across the African regions. We must have to come together within the West African regions to understand our problem. If we had the capacity as the ECOWAS body to, collaborate, manage and man our territorial integrity, knows what the issues are and the border. Because often we have said that, oh, there's border infiltrations. That's why we have these people so much in the north. They are having this because we have so much borders with Mali, Niger, and all of that. Okay, why can't we come together and say, okay, gentlemen, police your border, I police my border. Let's share this intelligence. Let's have the centers. As an ECOWAS body, we must have an understanding of what we are doing, because no sane nation will want to sponsor, insecurity and terrorism, except for Nigeria, that does not have the political will to, publish the list of sponsors of Boko Harams and terrorism over the years. And it's unfortunate that when corruptions are enormous in the systems, even our agencies, our security agencies, become selective in the fight against corruption. You hear one governor has stolen billions, nothing will be done. And then so when you have personal grifts with me, you go to EFCC, you go to police, you go to various agencies, and then because of your personal relationship with them, you use them to witch hunt individuals. So the thing is, are we fighting corruption? Or is corruption fighting us? These are the issues that we must look at it holistically before we can talk about the analyzing the performance of Nigeria as to sending our our security forces to go and restore peace and all of that.
So you talk about the domino effects of corruption on the fight against security. I wonder if David Otto is still with us. David Otto, I wanted to ask you, again, we've seen the capacity and capability of the Nigerian forces in quelling a coup. And of course, the critics say, is this regime protection over citizens protection in Nigeria? Because we've seen insurgency for over a decade in Nigeria, and we have not been able to quell that. But I want to also ask you, because we've seen the Nigerian government change a new Minister of Defense, as the erstwhile one resigned due to health, we're told. This new minister in Nigeria for defense is someone who has led troops on the battlefield. How much of a significance is that?
Yes, I think, first of all, we've got to make a clear difference between when Nigeria intervenes externally, for example, in the case of Benin, and when Nigeria deals with its own internal security. The rules of engagement are quite clear and are very different. So, when we talk about the days of Nigeria or the ECOMOG during the periods of Sierra Leone, when the Nigerian army was well praised, these are external engagement. We've seen that in Gambia. But when it comes to Nigeria intervening internally, it's a different, what they call a scenario altogether. It's much more a challenging approach. But I think for me, the key questions here that a lot of Nigerians will be asking, other countries like Sierra Leone, Ghana, that have indicated that they've sent troops to help. In the case of Benin, the question that one has to ask is, what are those engagement for the forces that have been deployed? How many of them are being deployed, and where are they coming from? The fact that Nigeria has indicated, President that the forces are overstretched, they are recruiting new forces. So the question is, where are they drawing these forces from? And what is the impact in terms of protecting Nigeria's own internal threats? The other question, who is paying for this? And where is that money coming from? Is it just ECOWAS? Because we know that Nigeria is one of the biggest funders when it comes to ECOWAS. They rely on Nigeria very much. Those are some of the key questions. What of these missions? How many soldiers have been sent? So once you answer these questions, then you can determine whether this mission is going to be a success or not. But that aside, in terms of your question on the new Minister of Defense, it does seem to me that as many have said before, you appoint someone that you had just dismissed a couple of weeks back. That indicates that there is some sort of standing somewhere. Perhaps it could be linked to the rumors that have circulated on social media about coup attempts, within the Nigerian, security architecture. Could be some sort of information that even that later on became untrue. Yes, that's one thing. So that brings the question as what would that change? This is an individual that has been at the forefront of the Nigerian as the CDS, Chief of Defense Staff. Now he's been made the Minister of Defense. How would that change in terms of the engagement? No one knows, because what is important to understand is not about the change of personalities. It's not about moving someone from one government department or one security department to another. We've seen that Boko Haram has continued to exist even when former President Goodluck Jonathan left, despite the criticism that he was unable to deal with it. President Buhari, may his soul rest in peace, came into power. He could not deal with it as well, despite making promises to deal with it. The current president is experiencing the same trajectory. So it's not just about the change of personalities, moving one from one security department to another. It's all about what strategy will they bring that they could not bring before, and why is it that they could not bring that strategy when he was a minister of Chief of Defense Staff, and what would that make a difference in terms of being a minister of defense? So I don't see any changes that would occur unless he comes up with something very new. Then, of course, the situation is just going to be, as it has been, in a couple of months past.
All right, David Otto, definitely not optimistic about the change of leadership in Nigeria's Ministry of Defense. But another option could be that he was relieved of his duty as CDS, so he could lead the Ministry of Defense. I'm just saying. Let me come to you, Mr. Onoja. Are you as pessimistic as Mr. Otto when it comes to Minister Musa?
I think I humbly disagree with some certain submissions Mr. Otto has made. I think there's need for us to give people opportunities. The Minister of Defense now, General Musa retired, is one man that Nigerians, not just about me, the news there, the analysis are in public domains. These data are in public domains. When he came on board as defense minister, as the CDS, you saw that a lot of change happened. And unfortunately for the Yelwata killings, internal policing, securities and all of that, so lies within the jurisdiction of the Nigerian police. Until we begin to understand that there are different engagements, even though we have one mission for national security, we must understand that those who are responsible about our internal security is the police. But when he came on board, he was able to, collaborate with other agencies, intelligence and all of that. Mm-hmm. It's unfortunate that we have some incidences of cases of banditries, adoptions and all of that across the northern Nigeria. But that's, be it as it may, you realize that there were drastic reductions in kidnapping when he was as a chief of defense staff. It was some kind of reduction in kidnappings, and especially the Kaduna Abuja road axis. There was this reductions of kidnappings like we used to have every weekend. Then you will see they have kidnapped tens, hundreds, and all of that. But then when he came on board, there were these strategies, there was this collaboration, there was this effort that we can see that it shouldn't result. Now, his position now as the Minister of Defense is to bring in strategies. It's not to go on the war front anymore. He has been in the operational theater. He understands
and
what...
And the service chiefs now report to him.
And of course. So he knows where and where the problems are before he left.
So you think it was a strategic appointment?
It was a strategic appointment.
Okay.
But though I think Mr. President also acted too fast. Yes, in the reappointment of him as the Chief of Defense Staff, because it was just barely 2 weeks, and then we have him back. So we would have allowed certain strategies and certain scrutiny of his operations while in office as the Chief of Defense Staff. And then we must have also highlighted his key performance indicators to see where the strengths are and where the weaknesses lies. Why I make this submission, I also like to draw Mr. President's attention that we will not always go kinetic. We must always combine the kinetic and the non-kinetic forces. The money we spend and we continue to expand on security kinetic forces. If we use quarter of it to bring in peace, reconciliations and all of that are supposed to be this peace alternative.
But that in itself has become controversial. What exactly consists of non-kinetic? Because some are beginning to define it as payment of ransom, giving the terrorists and the bandits a pat on their back. When you say non-kinetic, what exactly is non-kinetic in this instance?
No, this non-kinetic approach could come in different form. The citizen-centered approach is a non-kinetic approach. Gentlemen, we have a problem. There are fundamental causes of insecurity. What are those issues? Lack of peace, poverty, illiteracy. When the people perceive upward cheat from the government, these are all issues that are leading to insecurity. But we have to go on non-kinetic approach. It's bringing them on board. Gentlemen, we have these problems. How can we solve it? Okay, is it about education? We are giving you free education.
Okay.
We are doing this and we are doing that. That is one way or the other to get these things. Now he has able to come up with strategies of say, come on, gentlemen, go to the forest. And that is what brought about the forest guard and then even legalizing the arms and all of that for them to use. And then also coming up with 50,000 police officers as it wanted as such strategies. Now, there are other measures. You have brought in the kinetic approach. At the grassroots level, we lack neighborhood watch. We lack intelligence. The community-based approach is not utilized.
All right, Mr. Onoja, do we really lack intelligence or we're not sharing it enough?
No, we lack intelligence.
Let me bring in Mr. Onoja, Mr. David Otto as we wrap up, gentlemen. Mr. Otto, finally, we've also seen the zeal to recruit more forces, particularly the police force, 50,000 of them. In the meantime, the president of Nigeria says there should be no special protection for very important personalities. But again, we saw this week, he had to reiterate his orders. For some, it does suggest that there is resistance and there's pressure on the government to rescind that decision. Your thoughts on that? And is that enough? Is that a strategy as Nigeria seeks to secure its citizens more?
Well, of course, the argument is that, more is better. Nigeria has undoubtedly, demonstrated that it lacks, enough security men to deal with the level of threat that exists nationwide. So the idea that you'd have more men recruited is one part of the solution. But I think, another part of the solution is also this idea that, it is the military that will solve the problem of insecurity. And I do agree with, the co-panelist, my co-panelist, to say that the solution does not only come from the Nigerian military, but unfortunately, the Nigerian military seems to, position itself as the solution. But I think gradually, that shouldn't be the case. We should have, a multi-agency approach. There shouldn't be too much expectation that level of security in the country is something that the Nigerian military has. Because, I think that's the first thing. But in terms of the decision of the president to withdraw, security men from VIPs, you've got to think of this as, one solution and half problem. Now, why is it one solution? One solution is the fact that you can use those men to reposition them within certain services that are required, for them to protect national integrity, territorial integrity, to protect, these ordinary citizens. But the half problem is that when you also take them away from all the so-called VIPs, but the real ones as well, then you face a situation where they would become the target because, of course, the level of vulnerability within the country, continues to increase. And let's not forget that within all the past governments since 2014, we have reported more than 1,800 school children being kidnapped. in all subsequent administrations, not just Goodluck Jonathan's or the late President Muhammad Buhari, but also within the President Tinubu's regime. It's not about personalities. It's not about bringing one general or changing one general from one position to another. It is about what strategy is he going to bring on board. And let's state the strategy. Let's not say he's going to bring strategy, when actually, we don't even know what kind of strategy that he's going to bring. So I think what is quite key and important for Nigeria is to rejig, the security services. Yes, that's fine. But, collaboration is important. The fact that the Nigerian army, that, it can solve the problem alone, and it has given that, that kind of perception to the general public, where we expect that they will fix the problem. They are not the ones that will fix this problem. All agencies have to have equal interventions, and they all have to put their hands together to resolve the crisis.
Very well said. Mr. Onoja, your final thoughts. The very important personalities have the option of the Civil Defense Corps. Shouldn't they be jumping at that? Isn't that an option for them?
Yes, that's a good option for them. And again, why I agree with you that Nigeria is under-policed, I will also say that the current deployment and redeployment of the current staff that we have, the current personnel we have, the abuse of the current deployment of the personnel of the Nigerian police we have, is one of the fundamental problems that we must address. Go to Asokoro, go to Maitama. The empty houses that are built in the bushes are where our personnel are deployed. One senator's convoy will be carrying over 20 personnel. One House of Reps convoy is taking over 10 to 15% and also deployed to their family members. So why won't we complain when we say we don't have security personnel? Again, when we talk about school policing, school security, I've often advised Mr. President, even late President Muhammad Buhari, I've advised the President that using arms in the school environment is also a psychological torture on our students. And so what would be the alternative? The NSCDC are already bearing arms. And that's why I told you earlier that we lack intelligence. We can use alternative of the Nigerian Peace Corps. Now that you have bring in the forest guards to go and combat the criminals in the bush, in the forest, you can bring in the alternative. That is why the Nigerian Senate must consider the adoption and the assent to the Nigerian Peace Corps bill as a credible alternative to sharing intelligence and neighborhood watch in the community. If that is done, it gives room. Instead of recruiting, it gives rooms. And again, this is a conflicting mandate. The NSCDC that are supposed to be there protecting our national infrastructures are now going to be attached to personnel. And at the end of the day, when these VIPs continue to order them like they are now ordering goods from the market, our national infrastructures will be left unattended to, unprotected, and they will not start crying. So when our constitutional mandate is being conflicted with executive order, we should also consider the repeat effect. So I'm going to advise that the Nigerian Peace Corps can become an alternative for school security, intelligence sharing, and also even for part of the state policing that is being done front as a reform, because we are talking about state police when the current police system is still not reformed. When we talk about bail, is bail free? When we talk about the credibility of the Nigerian police force, how many Nigerians trust the Nigerian the police system? Until these reforms are well nipped in the bud, we cannot talk about effective state policing, because the state policing is the state versus our community policing, rather, is a community versus the police. When the community does not trust the police, how do you then want to have an effective community policing?
It does sound like a lot of issues, a potpourri. But gentlemen, we have to thank you for sharing your thoughts on these stories that unfolded during the course of a week here in Nigeria. Joining us from Abidjan, Côte d'Ivoire, security analyst David Otto. Thank you. And of course, in the studio here in Abuja, security expert as well, Jonathan Onoja.
Thank you.
Thank you.